Hey, welcome back to the Everyday Carry Experience. I'm Carl Lenore. Some of you may already know me. For the past 18 years, I've hosted the longest running health and fitness podcast in the world, Superhuman Radio. I have retired that show to focus on this project because this project has real life-saving effects. And the thing that astonishes me the most when I talk to people about gun leash is this illusion that no one loses a gun. And I have people who challenge me. They've said things on Facebook like, this is a gimmick because I've owned and carried guns for 50 years and I've never lost my gun. And that's a one-person experiment. We know that over 700,000 handguns are lost and stolen in the United States every year. We also know, thanks to the ATF, that 50 to 70% of the handguns used by criminals were previously owned by law-abiding citizens, but then lost or stolen. So this idea that because you never lost a gun, that we should just ignore the fact that there are lost guns falling into criminal hands. My guest today is Bruce Cardenas. Open up his mic. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, Bruce is on our advisory board, first of all, and that's because for his entire life, while many of you may know him because of his love of physical culture and training and that sort of thing, and actually even more so, helping small companies become super successful by being in charge of their communications. What a lot of people may not know about you, Bruce, is where you started. And so give a snapshot of your history. You're a young man, you go into the Marines, right?
Yeah, even before that, since we're talking about firearms, which is really part of my life as yours, and I've been involved with the NRA since I was 12 years old. Believe it or not, one of my high school coaches asked us one day, "Hey, are you guys interested? I run a small shooting range." And 12 years old, I started shooting small bore 22 for competition. It was in an old warehouse that he ran, and we went every single Wednesday all through high school. I became a distinguished expert in the NRA. As a matter of fact, I was the youngest one in the NRA history for small bore competition. So firearms have always been part of my DNA, if you will. I mean, that was a birthday gift my dad bought me, and used to go hunting with shotguns back east. So yeah, I transitioned. The boyhood dream was to be a police officer. I didn't have a path to get there, but I knew I wanted to be a cop. And just out of high school, I asked the local police chief. I grew up in a very small rural town, 6-person department. I said, I really want to join a department. I'm out of high school, and he, in his own kind way, hey, you're young and dumb and immature in his own ways. And he said, but if you go in the Marine Corps, specifically the Marine Corps, I'll hire you the day you get out. So grabbed my best friend and went in the Marine Corps, and then discovered there's a big world. And I always remember this, that shooting skill I acquired when I was starting at 12 with the small bore really helped me, because I was the number one shot in our battalion, graduating boot camp. So I've always been a big fan of firearms and the shooting skills that I acquired. So that launched me into the Marine Corps, and then obviously fulfilled my boyhood dream. I joined LAPD, which I'm coming up on, God, I'm dating myself. In January, I'll be 35 years involved with law enforcement.
I got to ask you, you said shotgun country to hunt. Were you born in New York?
No, New Jersey.
Okay.
And the Garden State, a lot of people think, but very rural where I grew up. Reservoirs, creeks,
Right.
Hunting, fishing. Yeah, very, very country.
I spent my summers in Upper Greenwood Lake, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it's opposite the Catskills on the Hudson.
Yeah.
People don't realize, but that's country. It still is some parts of that. It's
Our
beautiful.
hometown hasn't changed. It was an old steel mill town in the 1800s, and it's still the same. Main Street, USA. And yeah, but the Appalachian Mountains, we hiked 50 miles every summer, and Yeah, we did a lot of fishing, and you know, I'm not a big hunter anymore. I'm still a shooter, but yeah, we used to go hunting, back in the woods.
Yeah. And it takes real skill to hunt with shotgun with a slug. And even if I remember back in the day, I used to buy Brennickies, right? They had the fins on them.
Yeah,
They were supposed to act like the barrel was rifled.
yeah,
But you got to be easily within that 50-yard range. So you have to really be good at allowing the deer to get close.
right.
I mean, the only thing next to that would be bow hunting, but shotgun. And then I used to hunt upstate New York. I still go back there once in a while to hunt Schoharie County. My
Mm.
cousin Joe owns about 120 acres up there. It's beautiful.
Oh wow.
But I remember hunting primitive arms. I had a Thompson Center, 50 caliber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful, man. I love that, and I don't have it anymore. But
Yeah.
so let's back up a little bit. So
Yeah.
you went into LAPD, but you were injured in the Marines, were you not?
Yeah.
What happened?
I my foot was crushed jumping off the back of a helicopter. But it's crazy. So, and while I have a disability, I never disclosed that. I probably wouldn't have got on the police department. I was able to
Right.
pass the physical. Graduated in the high top 10% of my class going through the academy. But yeah, if I disclosed that, they probably would have eliminated me based on just orthopedic things.
Yeah, and that's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
So you get into the LAPD, but I guess you've always had the ability to communicate better because you were chosen for some very special roles when you were in the LAPD, like when the Rodney King riots and stuff went on.
Yeah. I never really realized what that skill set was because when you're, living it, doing your thing, I didn't go to school for anything. I literally tell people I barely squeaked out of high school. I was a dreamer. And if I got a C or a B, my parents were ecstatic. Short of wood shop and PT and metal shop, it just was not my thing. I just daydreamed. I thought about, whatever I'm going to do when I get out of high school. But what was my point to that? You asked me a question. I just forgot.
Well, you
Yeah.
have a skill set that
So the skill set was
you-
really even I remember even in high school, I was good at just being a good PR person, even with the teachers. They always liked me, even though I would say I was a screw up. They loved me and adored me. And so when I became a cop, I was always about relationships. And I remember I got off probation. It's really important I say this because I was on probation in a division. LAC is massive. It's 585 square miles, and there's 20 different police divisions per se. And I did my probation in Foothill Division. Foothill Division is known as where the Rodney King incident happened.
Mhm.
I worked with those guys, a couple of those guys on my probation, but then I left and went to Hollywood Division. And in Hollywood Division, where I really developed a good relationship with the captain, and he recommended me. It's crazy. He called me in one day. It was kind of the same thing happened in the Marine Corps. My first sergeant called me in one day, say, "I'm recommending you for the security detail, Cardenas. I don't know why. There's something about you I like, because even even if they're paying you a compliment, they're still kind of making you feel like you're a dumbass." And he said, "I don't know why, but I'm recommending you. You need to go down and interview with the first sergeant, and the colonel. And by the way, make sure you get a haircut because you look like a slob." So, but I got a pretty coveted position. Kind of the same thing with LAP. The captain called me in one day and said, "Hey, Bruce, they're looking for there's only 5 people we're going to select on the department to go down." And they started. It was called the Christopher Commission. He was a pretty famous attorney. I think he
Mhm.
part of the whole White House thing, and to investigate the Rodney King incident. Not to investigate the incident, that was obviously internal affairs, but to investigate internally what was going on with our department, use of force, firearms, physical altercations, and kind of. So I was selected on this committee. I did that for 9 months. So it always went back to relationships. I was somehow able to always develop great relationships with my bosses, and added value to the teams, I guess.
Now you actually got injured on the job too, right?
No, I was in a couple shootings, but I never got injured.
Oh,
Like,
I thought okay. So yeah, I know. I mean, you were in a couple shootouts, right?
yeah, a couple
pretty
big ones.
Yeah. Like how
We got
big?
the big one was with it was really before the big chases that you see on TV. There was a murder suspect named Michael Flowers. I remember his name. It's crazy. He was wanted for attempt murder on a highway patrolman. He shot up a highway patrol car in Orange County. and left. He shot up the car and just took off, but they had obviously his license or his registration and who he was. He lived in Hollywood division where I was assigned. And 2 days later, one of my partners, I was not the primary car, I was the second, but a guy named Ted Knott said, "Hey, I think we see this attempt murder suspect at a payphone in Hollywood, at Hollywood and Western." And the guy jumped in it was a little Toyota pickup truck, and he started following him and then went in pursuit. And then we were the second vehicle in the pursuit. Well, this guy had an old M1 carbine, which was used in the Korean War a lot. He had smashed out the back window of his pickup truck, and he's literally driving erratically and shooting while he's driving at us
with a rifle out the window.
with a rifle. And
that's correct me if I'm wrong. That's a 30-06 caliber, right?
I think it's a 30-06. Yeah, it's a big
That's
bore.
that's a very universal caliber. Yeah. And
at the time there was no news choppers in the air then, but the LAPD had a chopper overhead. And I remember because we talked to the pilots afterwards, and they had a federal judge on a ride along in the helicopter while this is going down. We're going through the streets of Hollywood. The suspect ends up crashing head on into a Range Rover driven by a woman named Kathy Smith. Kathy Smith used to be a pretty famous fitness icon back in the Jane Fonda days, with the workout videos.
You remember her? Yeah. I remember her. Yeah.
Beautiful blonde. Now, I didn't know who she was. I mean, obviously, suspect crashes. We get out. I literally remember clear as day. I stepped out of the car and heard this sound like, because you don't have ear protection on, right? And he's within 25 feet of me, and I thought, Jesus, that's loud. But I immediately went in. It's true how the fight or flight thing, I went right into tunnel vision. I don't remember hearing anything after the first round went off, but we ended up having a running gun battle through a parking lot at Arby's restaurant where he used to come, to us. And looking back on that, I tell people when I got interviewed, I said, he could have easily taken some of it. He had an M1 carbine, could have went right through the car doors, but he decided he was all drugged up. So he started kind of walking backwards and, exposed himself. If he stayed hunkered down, he probably could have taken out some of us. So thank God he wasn't that skilled, but that was a big shootout. There were 5 of us, and we ended up getting police medal for that. And then after the whole smoke cleared, I found out who, Kathy Smith was in his vehicle. And my senior partner, who was long retired, but I remember he used to always talk a good game about gunfighting. And when the smoke cleared and the captain or the sergeant showed up and said, "Hey, everyone that discharged your weapons, come on over here." And my partner Mike goes, "Hey Bruce, what are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean? I emptied my weapon." And he ended up hitting the ground. He ended up hitting the ground and got behind the car, which is irrelevant, but he didn't get involved. He didn't engage. So sometimes it's a proven fact that fight or flight, you never know. People talk a good game. You have no idea what you're going to do until you're in the element.
The Flowers guy, did you take him alive?
No, he died. Yeah.
You also ended up being a high-level bodyguard. You still do that?
I still do that. I still maintain a couple clients. I don't really advertise it since I'm, gotten involved with other businesses, as the sports nutrition space. But yeah, I still have a couple clients. I got deep in it. We used to work for a retired Beverly Hills sergeant, like every cop, trying to make extra money. It's not like we're getting rich doing that. I started working some details for him, and after about a year, there was one client that really liked what I did, and he said, "Hey, we want to hire you directly." And I didn't know how that worked, so we did a deal with the security company. They paid me, paid him out, so he wasn't affected. And I started my own company. That client to this day, who's he's still the chairman, or he's still under his portfolio. He owns Revlon Cosmetics. He's been a client of mine for now 30 years. I just started my own business, and once again, goes back to relationships. I started meeting people, connected with some good relationships, and I'm doing most of this executive protection for almost all the Sony music artists, Mariah Carey, Ricky Martin, Mark Anthony. So that I ended up transitioning out of being a cop because I was just doing too much with the security. Being a full-time cop, I'm still a reserve with the sheriffs, but I couldn't do it all. So the bodyguard business really took over my life. Traveling all the time.
I think that my brother-in-law worked for him. The guy, I'm trying to think of his name. It's not Silverman. The guy from Revlon.
His name's Ronald Perlman.
My brother-in-law John Finnegan, who retired from the 32nd precinct in New York, worked for him. Actually worked for him. He went to the office every day and he stayed there. He's married to a beautiful blonde who I can't think of. She looks like Angie Dickinson to me.
Are you talking about who? Perlman?
Yeah.
He used to be married to Ellen Barkin.
Yeah, he was married to Ellen Barkin.
Yeah.
When my brother-in-law John actually bodyguarded him in New York.
Yeah, he's always had security. He's got a townhouse on one side, and then right behind it through the courtyard is the office. They've always had off duty. They have a big
Yeah,
entourage of police back there. Yeah,
yeah, that's so funny.
yeah.
So, how did you get into physical culture? Was it because you were law enforcement, you wanted to make sure that you were capable in a hand-to-hand type of a thing, or did you just love bodybuilding when you were young?
I'll be honest with you. I had a poster of Arnold doing his famous back, the back pose
Mm-hmm.
in our little rec room in our house where we had a pool table. I'd always lifted weights. I literally had bought one of those sets of weights, with the plastic and the sand
Yeah,
inside, right?
yeah.
And then when I got into high school, there was a guy named Scott Leonardo, I think, and Jeff something. They were older than me, and they were righteous bodybuilders. Like they were biceps and triceps, and they were working out in the weight room. And they saw. I would just go in and work out, and it was a basic weight room, universal, like we all know. And there's some basic stuff, and they took a liking to me, and they said you have some potential. And I ended up doing my first powerlifting meet when I might have been a senior. Went to some little rickety powerlifting meet in some high school gymnasium, and kind of just got bugged on it. And then there was a gym called Gibson's Gym that a couple miles from my house where I joined, and that kind of. I remember Frank Zane did a seminar there one time, so I've always had like that hook on it. And then when I went in
Yeah.
the Marine Corps, there's either two things you do: you either party or you work out. And I worked out, and I was always surrounded by guys that were really doing great things in powerlifting and bodybuilding. And so I did some competitive powerlifting when I was in the Marine Corps.
Awesome.
Bodybuilding wasn't my thing. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, me either.
My training partner said, "Hey, let's get ready." I dieted down, and I was like, "Dude, I can't do this, man. I can't. I'm just."
And that's the thing. That for me, it was about getting stronger and improving on the 3 lifts.
Yeah.
And it was never about my body because I always carried. I don't think when I turned 50, I think I got down to 12% body fat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but and that's different. I'm 65 now. It's a lot harder to but I never wanted to diet down. I always just wanted to get stronger. That's all.
Yeah, I enjoyed the powerlifting. I wasn't great. I competed in 242. I had like a 1740 total at best.
Yeah, that's not shabby.
And then when I joined the police department, I still did some. We had a annual bench press contest. I like doing that stuff. And even now, I would say you and I, when you think about the population, we're probably still in the top 1 or 2% of strength.
Absolutely.
As far as like my training partners are both one's 34, one's 37, and I'm just as strong and probably stronger in some movements than they are, and they're strong guys. So I just enjoy lifting weights.
Me too.
And it's just always been part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And we know now that the stronger you are and the more muscle you carry, the longer you live. So that old adage, the strong live long, is actually come back to be proven in science now. So I just stay with.
And don't get me wrong, I think when I was a cop, it was obviously some level of confidence and security, and you get tangled up with someone, it was always better. I think the strength was always on my side, right? And I also got some street creds. I've talked about this on podcasts before, where I always like to talk people into jail. I was a public relations guy even on the street, and I remember, you get some of these dudes out of prison and they're all jacked up, and I would usually strike a conversation, or they would ask me, "Hey, how many wheels do you do?" Because in the joint, it's how many plates, how many wheels, and I would have those kind of conversations and kind of, "Hey, what are you benching? What are you deadlifting?" As opposed to, shut the F up and put your hands up.
Right.
And it got me a much further, because those are the same guys. I got to tell you something, and it proved time and time again. If you ever had a challenge down in the hood, those are guys that weren't going to screw with you, because at least you treated them with respect. So
right. So now let's talk about another phenomenon where you and I connect on. Yeah. And that is this notion that no one loses a gun.
Yeah, that's bullshit. So I will say this. I pride myself on gun retention and knowing where my stuff is and everything, but I'll be honest with you. It was in Hollywood division. I used the restroom, and you got to take all your shit off and your gun belt and all that. And I had a backup weapon I used to keep in my waistband, not my primary, but in my waistband, tucked in my waistband. I took it off and I put it on the counter. And I got dressed and I forgot it. Now, thank God, I had a cool boss who called me a short time later and said, "Hey, I think you left something in the, which was cool, right? But that could
Right.
have easily, I mean, I'm not saying I could have been in Disneyland and that happened, right? It happens because I personally know a dozen people that have been seniored SWAT guys, train killers that have shit happens.
I know, and the thing that baffles me the most when I get these pompous, self-righteous people who are like, if you lose a gun, you shouldn't be allowed to carry a gun. They just haven't lost the gun yet. That's my experience, and it it's fascinating to me. The patent for this automobile seatbelt was filed in 1885.
For the seatbelt?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Andrew Cleghorn, I think his name was. Hold on, I'll tell you.
I guess my dad didn't know about that when we used to drive in his F-150 pickup.
No, but listen to this. He filed it in 1885.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until 1950 that they started making it an available add-on to a new car purchase, and less than 10% of the cars that were made did they add it on because people felt like, I drive good, I don't need a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Then, as we had more and more cars on the road and more car accidents, by the 70s, they started teaching us about it. Remember, they used to, when we were kids, run the commercials, click, what did they say? Click it, or now it's click it or ticket. Now it's the law because they know it saves lives.
Yeah.
That is where I am right now with Gun Leash. I have all these people out there who think Gun Leash is a gimmick, but if you look at the stats that I commented at the beginning of the show, over 380,000 handguns are reported stolen, and my research proves that more than half of those were lost because what happens is when someone loses a gun, they report it stolen.
Right.
Because they don't want to live with the guilt of that gun fell into somebody's hands and was a weapon. But we know through ATF's E-Trace that above and beyond the guns that are reported stolen, there's a whole almost as many, if not slightly more, that are never reported, but they turn up. And when they run the E-Trace, it's like, oh, this gun was purchased by Joe Mullins in Utah. He had a pistol permit. He never reported this thing stolen or lost, but it was just used in Chicago to shoot somebody. Yeah. So we know that people are losing guns. People are stealing guns. Those guns are driving, according to the ATF, 50 to 70% of the handguns used in crime by criminals were previously owned by law-abiding citizens who aren't in the business of selling handguns to make an extra $1,200. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, of course.
I mean, and so the whole idea behind Gun Leash, and keep in mind, Louisiana already has a bill on the books that if your gun is used in a crime and it was lost or stolen by you, they're going to drag you into court. The punishment is going to be the process. You're going to end up going through tens of thousands of dollars. You're going to have to pay a fine. They want to see what steps you took, to actually make sure you prevent it. Yeah. And believe me, every state is going to do this. So if you are somebody who lost your gun, like I thought I did, I almost did. It was by the grace of God that it turned out that I didn't. But you are going to be punished. And every state is going to hop onto this. So this idea that, nobody loses a gun is complete bullshit. And I've heard stories. When I started talking about Gun Leash a few years ago, I was on Mark Bell's podcast. And I mentioned I was working on this. And a guy reached out to me from Pennsylvania, from Philly. And he was a patrolman. And he was, and this is the thing. We want transparency, but when people talk about things transparently, they're beat up. They're people, oh, you're an ass. This guy was in a restaurant. He had a gun belt on, with everything, taser and everything else. He took it off and hung it on the hook in the stall.
His gun belt.
Yeah, on the hook. Instead of a jacket, he put the loop of the gun belt. He did his thing, but when he got up and went out, he forgot that his gun belt was hanging there.
Oh, shit.
He got about a mile and a half down the road before he realized it. He went back. Luckily, the restaurant was not busy. It was there. It was hanging on the inside of the stall door, just like he left. But he told me the truth. He said, if somebody would have used that stall, they would have had everything. They would have had every piece of equipment I had on that gun belt. They would have out with.
Wow.
It happened.
It does happen.
Yeah. So,
it's just prevention. It's prevention.
It's like my house has never caught fire. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to have homeowners insurance.
Yeah, and I like the idea, like if a gun, because if a gun is even stolen out of your house, well, where was it stolen from? Was it in a locked safe that's bolted to your floor, or do you leave it in your dresser drawer? I mean, so there does have to be some accountability, I think, even on those levels.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why we don't recommend gun leash be used for. So we have a new device that's going to be coming out next year that will listen to the guns in your home. Like I don't have children at home. I keep my handguns that I'm not carrying. I have 3 handguns that I favor to carry.
Yeah.
And I keep the ones I'm not carrying in my dresser drawer. We'll be able to put, the gun corral is what it's called. In that room, it'll listen to the pings from that gun. Now, it will tell me if that gun walks out of the room, but that's not designed to keep your kids from shooting themselves.
Right.
That's why people need a gun safe. If you have children in your home, you need a gun safe. What gun leash is for when you're out on the streets carrying your gun. If you carry a gun, you're 300 times, not percent, 300 times more likely to lose it. It's startling.
Wow.
So, yeah. But anyway, I wanted to get your story on tape because I think it's important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's just another layer of preventive measures, and I get it. No one wants to admit that, of course, right? But I would say anyone that's been around and carried guns and owned multiple guns and getting in cars and out of cars, and things happen. It's just a fact. Backpacks and fanny packs and shit. I was just going through a bag the other day, and I said, "Oh, that's where I left my 45." I mean, it's in my house, but it's in a bag. It's like a go bag.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think it's just another tool. It's a preventive measure for safety,
Yeah. And we have a modification to the app that will help people like me. I left the handgun, and one night I came home, I put the holster and everything on the hamper. Next thing I know, I threw clothes in the hamper, and I didn't know where the gun was. We'll have a solution for that with the app. We're revising the app so you can walk around the house like a Geiger counter and find guns that you misplaced as long as they have one of our beacons on them.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. We have a bunch of things that are coming up. We won't let you go to the airport. Do you know how many guns are confiscated going through TSA? That they arrest you, you get on the no-fly list just because you forgot you were wearing your gun. So we have a solution for that. When you're a mile away from from a major airport, the app will ask you, are you planning to go to the airport? Because if you are, please stow your gun.
Oh, it'll know you're going to an airport?
Yeah, we're using geofence technology, and that's going to be added to the app in the middle of 2024.
By the way, I did that as well.
Did you?
Except it was prior to 9/11, thank God.
So they let you go back to your car and put it in the car?
I had my backpack. I have a backpack I carry everywhere and always carry. And my girlfriend at the time said, "Hey, let's go to Cabo for the weekend. I already booked our flights." And oh yeah, let's go. And I grabbed my backpack. Literally, as I went through, I was already through where the bag was on the conveyor, and I was like, "Shit, I don't damn." And all of a sudden they say, "Hey, we have a firearm here." And I'm like, now, thank God there was no TSA then. Remember, there was no prior 9/11, so there was a cop there, and somebody said, "Hey." Showed him my ID. Said, "Listen, you can go back and put it in your car." Thank God. But now who knows?
Now they arrest you. It's a $10,000 fine.
Yeah.
Like you can say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have concealed carry." They're like handcuffs, missed the flight.
You're done.
Yeah. It costs tens of thousands of dollars. You got to get an attorney. Anyway, I just want to put this up real quick. So Gun Leash is available on a pre-sale right now. We have some really special deals. If you go to gunleash.com, our motto is never lose your gun, never leave your gun. This is a revolution. This isn't a product. Gun Leash will save lives. The more people that use it, the more lives we will save. So check it out. Bruce, thank you very much for making time to come on the show today.
Oh, thank you. Listen, I'm a big QA advocate, and I love what you're doing. I love the packaging, by the way. It looks pretty cool. And I think it's going to be part of necessary tools for anyone that owns a gun. Just another added security measure.
Yeah. Look, I have USCCA coverage. God forbid I legally shoot a guy. Well, legally, I shoot a guy in self-defense.
Yeah.
They'll defend me. They'll bail me out. That's because I'm a forward-leaning, conscientious gun owner.
Yeah.
People will say, well, why would you have that? You may never shoot somebody. That's right. And I have homeowners insurance, and I may never have a house fire. But there's things you do because the recoil of a mistake like that could destroy your life.
Yeah. No, you're very smart on this. I think it could even get to the point where once it's known, could probably even reduce insurance rates on if hey, I have this, I have these safety measures. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, that's it. Thank you for those of you who watch live and those of you who are watching the retape. Don't forget to visit gunleash.com, and we will see everybody again with another episode soon. We got an ATF guy coming on the next show.
Oh, nice.
And this guy knows he's a senior special agent, I guess. He's also he trains bomb, like how they handle the bombs and stuff like that. But he's going to be coming on to talk about the reality. The ATF ATF doesn't make laws. Politicians make laws. ATF follows the laws that are made, just like a police officer. Police officer is just there to enforce the existing laws. He says to me, the ATF doesn't want a ban on guns. They don't want guns to go away. That's more of their business than tobacco and alcohol, he said. So
interesting, yeah. Wow.
We're going to keep him on soon. All right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks to everybody. Don't forget, share the show. You never know who you're going to help. Take care.